Welcome to our first Humane Economics class. It's an online class. Its purpose is that anyone can understand and help to change the economic paradigm. The first question is that can a reformed economic theory save the world? So is our hypothesis true that if we make a new economic theory and if we start to teach it in business schools, at universities, and some politicians, CEOs and other decision makers would adopt it, can the world be made sustainable? My hypothesis is that yes, but you will learn. We have a motto, be smart as snakes and be also like doves and don't hurt anyone. So smart, intelligent like snakes. I don't think we have to argue for a smart economy. And also you should not hurt the poor, you should not hurt the environment and so on. I quite like this phrase, so we also drew a logo. This logo is a dove, a pigeon, bringing not the palm, the peace symbol in the mouth, but the snake. But the snake is not a prey, they sort of work together, so smart and gentle development we are thinking about. May I introduce myself? My name is Gergely Tóth. I'm speaking from Keszthely, from Hungary. We have a wonderful tourist place, so we are in the middle of the world economy, at least for 6 weeks in the summer. And I'm working as a mayor of this city. But also I spent something like 20 years in the green movement. We were trying to, not to greenwash, but to green make companies, corporate social responsibility, environmental management and so on. So we have quite an experience from the green office to saving with the environment and ESG and all this stuff. Then I changed to science, so I am a full professor of the Hungarian University of Agriculture and Life Sciences, and I'm working at the sustainability department, so we have publications and so on. I think that you need this experience from companies, from real life. Also, I think you have to go deep enough to theories. It's not enough to build or to find out something like green growth, because growth cannot be green after a while. And I think it's also good if you know how the world works. So I'm a relatively young politician. I'm only doing this for 2 years, but anyway, it gives a versatile background. But it's something you have to decide. This is the coat of arms of Keszthely. Keszthely is a very nice old historic city. The Lake Balaton really worthwhile to visit. I have a motto for this lecture as well. 100 years from now, humanity will live in a poorer world, but it could be a much better world if we end up our greedy lust for wealth and profit. So normally we would think that we have to live better and better, and better is automatically associated with more. It's partly human thinking, partly this model has been proved well for 12,000 years, so it's not easy to adopt. Basically, it's like being adult, so how you behave like a child, it's not easy to forget and to change to adulthood, so to say. So of course you have a learning phase when you are a teenager, and probably it's the end of the days when we should close our teenage days. And now we could be economically adult, which means not only that we have our salary, but we have moderation and responsibility. So we all know that too much money or too much power without responsibility can really cause huge problems. I am very thankful for this citation for our Bishop János Székely. It was published a year ago. It's July of 2026 when I'm recording this lecture. The basic statement of this lecture is that we have a missing piece, a so-called reformed economic theory for sustainable and humane development. Sustainability is a somewhat widely used term, but we must state and restate that only sustainable system is not good. We need sustainability, so stay within the ecological limits of the earth, but also we want to make humanity better. So with indices, this is maybe to stay within one planet borders. This we measure with the ecological footprint and the ratio of biocapacity. The most common index is the Human Development Index. So basically, we don't want that we live only in a sort of ecological sustainable world, but we must bring especially people in Africa and in Asia, in the Far East, to normal living standards so that everybody can live a normal life. This is what we also formulate in SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. So according to my statement, we have a missing piece in the middle, and this is the reformed economic theory. So if you don't grow again, and you don't grow anymore, what should be instead? And who needs to grow and who does not need to grow? So what is good growth and bad growth? This is not easy, because science and also economics is working with more or less, because this is something we can quantify. Good, better, worse is not so easy, because that's a moral statement, and moral is not something you can measure. I prepared 3 points for today. The first is sustainability. Is it a bullshit, or can we save the world with sustainability? The second is we have to talk a bit about economism, because this is different from good economics. Economism is a sort of mania, and it often proves to be bad, and how to stay within the one planet boundary. And finally, at the end of this presentation, I will arrive to what we call humane economics. So we will define what this new economic theory would be. We make a very basic mathematical model, we give a definition, and then hopefully there will be more and more lectures where we explore certain points, like how to maximize happiness, what's the relationship between money and happiness, till what point does money makes us happier, or the ecological scarcity limits, and so on. So according to my agreed plans, we will have at least 12, but maybe more lectures, mostly from me, but I would like to have other scientists and other public lecturers to join, and I want to make this sort of free movement, an online learning. We will see. This is only the first step on this nice road and towards this vision. So first about sustainability. Is it bullshit, greenwash, empty speech, or can we save the world with sustainable development theory? First of all, I would like to give you a sort of fairy tale, or at least a figure from the fairy tale. I'm from Europe, and I have a background of methodology, from the Greek and Christianity and all these things. And in our culture, the dragon is always a bad guy. Okay, so in Christianity, the dragon is the symbol of the devil. So the seven-headed dragon, which is also a common figure in our fairy tales in Hungary, is a very strong, very dangerous, very smart bad guy. I know that in other cultures the dragon can be a good guy. So for example in China we have good dragons and bad dragons. I'm not a dragon expert. Anyway, what I want to tell you is a symbol. The dragon with the 7 head, which is for me the symbol of unsustainability. So all what we call not sustainable, overriding the ecological limits, accumulating more and more money, which doesn't make us happy, and also this extreme inequality that people like Elon Musk has, I think, $750 billion of wealth. It's something not we can understand. Other people live less than $1 a day. So this is such an extreme inequality that economics have to have a say on that. So it's not good that everybody maximizes profit, but someone is in the sky and the other people are underground. We need a sort of fair gap, and we must define the fair ratio of inequality. I must emphasize that I have lived in a communist country until I was 20, and I'm absolutely an anti-communist. So I don't think that total equality would be a good thing, or even it would be something we can achieve, because I lived in that and I know very well how bad it was. But capitalism is on the other extreme. So also we must stay in the middle of the horse. We have a saying that you can fall on the other side of the horse if you over-exaggerate something. So I think that modern global capitalism lets people be extreme rich and extreme poor. And this is not real market economy. Real market economy, according to the new theory, should be somewhat balanced. Okay, so not total inequality, not total equality, but also not extreme equality. This is a magical balance that we are seeking. I must tell that this is the hardest in the new theory to find and to quantify this, but we have some results. So anyway, back to our dragon, which we call Globi, after globalization. The 7 heads are, for example, environmental degradation, holding injustice with other generations, tyranny over other species. We all know that biodiversity is the biggest problem. Currently, if we add up all the mammals that are on Earth by kilograms or by weight, then only 1% or maximum 2% is the total weight of something like 4.5 million species. I mean animal species. And 1% or 2%, 2/3 is everything what we call livestock. So all that you know, pigeons and not pigeons. I'm sorry, pigs and mostly poultry, and so all this maybe 12 or 15 animal species that we basically eat. And 1/3 is humanity, so we are also very many. This is not, this is what I call tyranny over other species, but I will show some pictures in other lectures. Depersonalization, like AI, might be one of the heads, oppressing the poor, saying no to life. So this is something we can vary. But anyway, what I want to show that the dragon has 6, 7, 10, 14 heads, and in the fairy tale, if you cut one head, that 2 other will come out. So we must go deeper than fighting against this superficial phenomena. We must go deep, and deeper are the 2 wings. Of course, if we cut one of the wings of the dragon, that it will be really hurt. The 2 wings could be, for example, consumption with no limit. If you have enough money, you can consume anything. Or technical optimism, that, okay, we can be the engineers and the new environmental products will solve the problem, and the government and so on. So technology will solve the problem because it has solved many problems. I must say that the two wings are first of all not dental, so if we cut them, the dragon will be still okay. But more importantly, the wings are good things. So both technology and both consumption are good things. The totalization of them is bad, so we must go deeper to kill or to tame the dragon. I will tell you later what is my point of view. We'll have to go a bit deeper. So let's see the legs. The legs could be the multinationals and the metropoles, okay? So the big cities and the big companies. Many people, especially those who believe in conspiracy theories, think that there is a corporate power. Corporates are mean, and the CEOs are mean, and the politicians are mean, and we should change the system. So first of all, again, we tried this in communism. Basically, we got even worse managers than previously. Also, we saw too much power. Anyway, the legs cannot be cut because we all live in cities and we all work for multinationals, or at least use their products. It's very hard to be in the third millennia to be completely independent, making your own food, making your own energy and so on. It's possible, but totally you cannot make it. So it's something we have to live with. What about the blood? If we blood out the dragon, then the dragon will be dead. The blood is probably money. Too much money we have in the world, especially if we count what we call funny money. So not the money that I have in my pocket in banknotes or not even on my card, but all these bytes and bits and all the speculation. I don't go to this because this is also a wonderful soil for conspiracy theories, and I'm convinced the anti-conspiracy theory man. So the biggest question, according to this dragon tale, is what is the heart? One of my favorite saints is Saint George. And you always see St. George, who doesn't fight from power, but from God's power. And so not with his own strength, or not with the weapons, or that he's such a good fighter, but he fights with the power of truth. Okay, that would be the word, because you might believe in God or not, but probably we all believe in truth, or at least this lecture is only for such people who want to make the world better and want to have more justice in the world. So back to St. George. St. George in the original legend doesn't kill the dragon first. He pushes his lance to the heart of the dragon, because the heart is the weak point of the dragon. So actually this drawing which we drew to my first book, which was called The Truly Responsible Enterprise, this was published in 2007. So anyway, this was the front page, but it's a bad symbol, because normally St. George pushes the lance through the throat to the black heart of the dragon. But what is the heart? According to my proposal, the heart is economism. Okay, so again, this is the point when we have to differentiate between economics, economic science, what we call good economics, and economism, which is a mania. Let's see the difference, but first I want to show where economism, it's a whole system or a whole national strategy builds on economism for a long time, then we can have something what we call the American dream. What is the American dream? And this is not against US people, because they are basically pioneers in believing the American dream, but they sort of start to be disappointed, especially as they lose the world leading economic player role. So in the 60s, when the American dream was very much more attractive than today, and much more people believed in it, it means that if you are a hard worker, you study a lot, and you have a good diploma or a good job, or you are a good entrepreneur, then you can make basically you can make heaven on earth. So as a young person, you will have a nice big house. If you are a boy, you will have a good-looking wife, and you will have cars and so on. But the American dream, now as many of us reach that, I mean, we have more modern cars, but basically, at least in half of the world, having an own car is not a big deal. It's not something you dream of, it's something you expect. And you don't expect at the age of 80 when you're retired, but as a young person, many people got company cars and so on. But what we learned, and what was strange, that actually it's not heaven on earth. It became a bit bitter, and it showed that the first car and the first wife makes you very happy, but then the second, third, and so on. This is what we call marginal happiness. And after a while, you are not happy with more cars at all. I put this much less nice house, and with the two hammers. So I don't know why you would need two hammers, but some people need it. But basically, the American dream proved to be fatal and proved to be not working. Now many people, as they reach this stage that they have all the material resources, they realize that it does not make them happy anymore. Probably the case is that while we are more happy and happy, less happy with more money, and then there is what we call a tipping point or a maximum, and then more money makes you either neutral or it makes you less happy, because more money normally means that that you have to work more, or you have to take risk, you have to make too big of a compromise with your morality, and you see the other people who are poor. So I would advise to anyone who is a millionaire in any currencies to go to India or Bangladesh for a week and walk on the street. This will prove that you are not happy at all, because you will see the gap between you and all those children who are begging bread from you. But back to the American dream. So the American dream became a bit sinister, a bit, how to say, not elfish, but like the devil. And overconsumption doesn't make us happier anymore. It makes us fatter and more disappointed and so on. So probably 5 colors of M&M makes you as happy as 105 colors, but it looks good in a department store. I'm not the only one who are saying that. I must say that economists and researchers are warning people for at least 30 or 40 years. For example, there is a for example, I could mention Ernst Friedrich Schumacher with his work Small is Beautiful, or Ludwig von Bertalanffy, who published in America, and he showed that the Americans that time had the most money. This was in the 80s or 90s in the latest. Still they are less able to enjoy the money than the Europeans, who that time had much less money but were better in arts, or the art of living, so to say. But this is not a generality, it's something you could read after. Anyway, to reform the economic theory and this very basic paradigm which is working for since the age of Adam Smith. Adam Smith, the father of economics, published his book in 1776, so basically 250 years ago. And although we have many schools of economics, the very basic point of economics is the very same. Profit maximization, work distribution. Later on, Kuznets and other people developed what we call GDP, gross domestic product. So basically, we have many approaches and some important reforms, but not an overall reform and not something we could call paradigm shift. I think that without a paradigm shift, we cannot go further, and we are on the best way with a good theory, or originally good theory, to kill the earth. And we are smart people, so we should not let this. We must use some out-of-the-box thinking, and we must break off our routine, not only in our daily life, but in our theories, because theories is something that we learn in the schools, and this is something what moves us. So we must change it at the very basic level. Many people think it's a kindergarten and the elementary school. I'm personally convinced that everything is all right at that level. I think that at this stage we must change the thinking of economic students and other decision makers who will be in 10, 20 years will be managers and politicians and so on. If we change their point of view and their paradigm, then everything will be all right, at least for a while. So we must break up this magical song of more and more dollars and fonts and pounds and yens and yuans and euros and whatever. There is life beyond dollars, and we must explore this life, not to get rid of dollars, not to tell the poor people in Africa and in the Far East that you should stay poor, otherwise the world will end. We must let them grow a bit, and we must, here in Europe and America, stop growth, and somehow we must work out this system. So we should not be enchanted anymore with the flute play of this. This is another fairy tale figure from Germany, the Ratten. Anyway, the guy who finds the rats, you can look after. What I promise is that we will differentiate between economics and economism. This is basically the same as welfare and well-being. You know, welfare is only monetary. If you have more money, then you have more welfare. Well-being is partly money, but partly more health, expected life years, justice. So all this from very quantitative stuff to non-quantitative stuff. You all know how unhappy you can be as a billionaire, but you also know that you are almost unhappy if you are a beggar in Sri Lanka. Anyway, we must show that economics have to give the basic conditions for human life and for happy life, and these are economic conditions. But whether you are happy or not, it's your own decision or your own work of art, or maybe that's the target of your life, to be happy in a good way so that you make other people happy. This is what we call objective happiness. Okay, I'm happier if my community is happier as well. Okay, if I buy a nice Tesla, then big or Ferrari or whatever is your favorite car, then I will be happy. I must say only for 1 or 2 months, because after that the Ferrari will cost a lot with the insurance, so there will be a scratch and it will not look so nice, and most of all the neighbors will be envy on me. And if it makes me happier that the neighbors are envy on me, then it's not good happiness. If all the neighbors are happier because I buy a car which I give them sometimes, and also they can buy cars, then the whole community is getting happier. So it's not a question of Ferraris or Suzukis. It's a question whether the community can be happier together. And of course there are some inequalities, so I don't promote a theory when everybody should have a green Ferrari. Okay, I think you understand, but you can look after what's, it has good literature, well-being and welfare. If we have some Hungarian speakers here, then in our language is jólét and jólét. The same word, but with one L more. Okay, jólét is only monetary welfare, jólét with a double L is well-being. So in Hungarian it sounds a bit more stupid, but anyway. Before redefining economics, let's see what economics originally meant. It's a Greek expression. Oikonomia, which the Latin, the ancient Romans also took over, means comes from two words, oikos. Oikos is a house or a farm or anyway a living place, a reigning house or a package of goods, so something basic material package that you live on. And the other is neimein. Neimein is a verb which means to manage, to regulate, to control. So oikonomia, economics, originally meant good household management. Okay, so you manage in a smart way what you have, including your living standards, your items, your goods, your family, your livestock, and so on. So, of course, everybody wants to have a smart management. Economism, which an ism is always a big drop. Okay, to think of the social system and socialism, or think of biology or biologism, which is another story. But back to economism. Economism, according to my definition, is an ideology or quasi-religion to subordinate everything to economic growth, efficiency and competitiveness. This makes automatically social and environmental considerations inferior and often sacrifice them at the altar of so-called economic laws or economic necessities. I speak about these laws and necessities in quotation marks because economics is not like physics, that gravitation, that it always works like this. It's a sort of speculative science. Okay, so all the human sciences are sort of stochastic. So there are not so absolute truths as in physics. By the way, we know from Einstein that also in physics the absolute truths are not so black and white as Newton thought, but basically in natural sciences we have strong roles, even in ethology. Okay, so basically you can forecast the behavior of a wolf because how to say, instincts are commanding them. We are more sophisticated beings because we have the instincts, which also sort of control us, but also we have other considerations like morals and so on. So, for example, you can find altruism among the animals, but it's very hard to find a wolf who sacrifices his life for his nation, okay? Or maybe for the family, because that's something they can understand, but it's very rare. In people, you have the martyrs and you have the killers, so it's very hard to predict them and to see if we do something, what will be the consequence. I will hold a separate speech on the man image of economics, which we call the Homo economicus, but we have too much derivation, so I will concentrate on this. If we want to illustrate this with a cartoon, then we can say that this is a sort of funny but alas true development of religion. First believed in sun and the moon, and then in the abundance, like the Venus of not Milo, but Willendorf. This is a very old sculpture, actually this little. I think I saw this in Vienna. It's you can see it in the museum or in the internet. Then we had all these religions with many gods, like Egypt or the Greeks, and then we have the monoistic religions like Christianity or Islam, and some religions which don't have God, Hinduism. So basically diverse major religions now. But what we often forget, there is an overriding sort of religion that we all believe in money. And this is something where we are almost united. And we must put this back to our normal gods. And by God, I don't only mean the religious people. Our God is our highest ideal, which could be sustainability or not harming, or being a vegan, not harming the animals and so on. So anyway, something which is value and which is above money and living and jobs and so on. The problem that if it's money, it's not a bad thing, but it can turn bad if it becomes normal economics to economism. To repoint and to re-emphasize that, I developed the so-called Holy Trinity of economism, the three idols, not gods, or the, if you want to use this terminology, the so-called Holy Trinity of economism, which is growth, competitiveness, and efficiency. Many people, and people from the rector of university to the head of the state in almost any country, to the chief executive officer of basically any global company, or almost all of them, most of them share the idea that if we have more, so we are growing, if we are more competitive, be it our university, our country, or our company, and if we are more efficient, then it's good. Later on, I will prove, or I will try to prove that growth, competitiveness, and efficiency are not something we can maximize forever, but they have an optimum. If you are too efficient, for example, you lose your humanity. Okay? If you are too efficient, then you will lose your friends, and you will not realize that there are poor people because you think that it's their own blame, and it's something you can blame them for, and so on. So basically, being efficient is something than having a good social system. Economics, as I told, meant originally the proper management, which is neima in Greek, the household, oikos. And this idea has held itself for something like 2,000–3,000 years minimum, from Plato and Thales. Thales published a very interesting, Thales of Miletus. Some of you might know his name from mathematics. So he lived in I think in the 8th century before Christ, so something like 3,000 years ago. Till Adam Smith, till the Reform or the global age, basically, this was economics. But then economics started to be a good science, separate, independent science, as I told, at the end of the 18th century, after Christ. And now we see many people who have all the economics, still they are unhappy. They see that money doesn't make you happy. Plus, in the last 2 decades, we see that our economics profit maximization behavior will kill the earth. So we will have nothing to give our children and grandchildren. It's not a good feeling, because most of us think of future generations. and it's not a good feeling to look to the eyes of our children and to tell them, okay, we have drunk mineral water and vodka and whiskey and Coke without sugar or with sugar, and I could tell 1,000 other examples of good drinks, and you will have not even fresh water to drink. This is not a good message that I want to tell to my daughters or to my son. So I personally, I am telling this because I want to play my little role against that, and I invite you to do the same. You know that economics became economism, and now we have many politicians who are sort of admirers or believers of economics. I don't want to be politically incorrect, so I just gave the two of the 3, 4 most powerful leaders in the world market today. So probably Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin have very different worldviews, and I could name other politicians. But in one thing they share, they believe in prosperity and economism. The more we have, the more efficient, the more competitive are the better. However, I think that this is the point when the US, Russia, the European Union, and most of all China could work together and not to compete, but to solve the problems of the world, especially in Africa and in Asia. And what might be a surprise, that would probably solve inner problems. Okay, so I'm a European, and I'm pretty much convinced that if we could solve Europe's problems via helping people in Africa. For example, we could solve migration. For that, we must basically concentrate all this technical and economic power that we have, and probably we only have today, because we will lose and lose if we are rather at the end. This is another story. We should put this into long-term projects, which we are only able to do now. Like the green wall in the Sahara, to tell one example, or make good jobs for African people where overpopulation is still a problem. I might hold a lecture on overpopulation, but my basic statement is that it's the problem of all the ages. Now China, India, and all what pops up first in our head have no problem with overpopulation. Actually, we will have really serious problems in 1 or 2 decades in underpopulation, which we have now in Europe, in America, in Russia, basically 90% of the world. There are still some sub-Saharan countries, especially Nigeria, where overpopulation is a problem. But the first weapon against that is not, in my understanding, not birth control, but basically giving good living to people, basic living. And we all see in all countries when we have some security and basic living, then birth rates automatically drop. And this is a good message not for Nigerians, but also for the European or American or Chinese multinationals. Okay, so altogether we must develop something to tame the dragon of globalization, which is endangering us via unsustainability, what we call humane economics. And I did not tell you how I think working against the dragon. So I don't think in killing it through the heart, but taming it, which means that the dragon can serve us again, and not that our own creature, be it a dragon, the Terminator, if you like, this sci-fi classic, or what most people of today are afraid of, AI, which becomes independent. We must tame that, and we should not get rid of them, as the Luddists, who thought that they should destroy machines. but we should tame this, and they should serve us again. So instead of the dragon, the seven-headed dragon, we could have again Pegasus, which is a one-headed horse, which is not harmful, but much better than an old-age horse. This I call the African dream. So basically, instead of digging out money and resources from poor countries, especially Africa, South America, in terms of natural resources and human resources, especially the Far East, the eastern side of Asia, we must work on a system when economics can give enough basic resources, basic living, I mean shelter, so basic housing, basic food, good quality water, and healthy food and jobs for everybody. It doesn't mean that we can all live at the level of how people now live in Dubai, in Monaco, or in Miami Beach, but it can give a basic for all these 8 or 9 billion people, and we could do it within staying the Earth's one Earth limit. Okay, jobs, schooling, and so on. So this would be the African dream. I love the cartoons of the economists, so I mostly reuse them. Normally I also give the source, but sometimes they really come close to what I think of the future. So we must also, in Europe there is a big dream that we can have green growth, and partly it's working, partly not, but alone the EU's efforts to make the Green Deal will not work unless we make this paradigm change of being more competitive and more comfort and quicker and better cars and so on. So probably electric cars are a good experiment, but probably at the end of the day we will need less personal mobility, and most probably even with nitrogen or other things we cannot go very much forward, but we must stay in our places, or we must take the train or the bus, so public transport. And of course, this is not against technological development. Again, this is against technological optimism that electric cars in themselves will solve the problem. So also there is a big fight against the renewables and fossil energies. For me, this is not the major fight. This is not a technological fight, although it's an important area of development. But at the end of the day, it's about paradigm change, especially in economic thinking. Now we turn to our second point, economism versus happiness and the one planet. If we show that there is one, this is the trend line, so to say, the growth line of humanity. We can, so on the horizontal axis it's time, so with the vertical line it's today. On the left, this is the last 12,000 years, so since our current civilization started to develop, and on the right hand it's the future. We saw something what we call the exponential growth, that everything is growing quicker and quicker. GDP, population, pollution, and so on. There is a very famous article in Science that shows us at least 40 of these growth curves. I must say that this is not truth. This is only the first image, because something is not growing exponential. So, for example, population is slowing down. Something started to drop. Sometimes good things and sometimes bad things. So, for example, a good thing of drop is fish catching, so we have less and less fish, and probably 20 years we will have more plastic waste in the world oceans than life, biomass. But anyway, most people think that if this green thing turns to a red, then it will be a disaster, which is the black curve. So there will be a total collapse. This was already published in 1972 in the club, or 70, I don't remember, in the Club of Rome Limits to Growth, and we have more and more warnings. The question, is there a third way? And what I'm proposing is a third way, what we call gentle development, or humane and sustainable development. We are in the bifurcation point. So in the middle you see this little blue box, and maybe I can show, yeah, so in the middle. And this is what Wallerstein, Immanuel Wallerstein, famous famous historian, called the bifurcation zone. It means that now we see the past, and now we see the limits of our future actions if we move on the red. So now we have a mass of people, critical thinkers, and probably we have also the critical mass. This was not existing in the 70s when Schumacher published The Small is Beautiful, or when the Club of Rome published his first report, or when Rachel Carson published the first sort of fine art piece of unsustainability, The Silent Spring. But in 2026, there are enough people and enough politicians and enough CEOs who see that that the red thing cannot be continued. And we have the smart innovators, the opinion leaders and so-called change makers, who can help us to avoid the black one and turn to the yellow one. According to this idea, the G curve is the exponential curve, continued globalization. A curve is the sort of Gauss curve after the famous mathematician Gauss. It's called the catastrophe. But we have the S curve, the green one, slower and happier development, gentle development, localizations, combined globalization and localization. If we play a bit with these four squares and with the colors, then we see that the red one is like a volcano, so it's more and more pressure, and all of a sudden a big boom. The catastrophe is like the invasion of locusts, so growing population and then collapse. And the third way is the human way of what we call human development. And again, we are in the bifurcation zone, and you and me and all those who are responsible and think of the future can change the development path, because now we are collectively ready for that. That's why it's important to develop new economics, because many people know what, but then don't know how. And my proposal is that the how is the missing piece of this puzzle, humane economics. I must say that we turned this even to a political logo in our small city, which has something like 20,000 people. We call it Fejlődés, gentle development, in German schonende Entwicklung, Wyraźnie развитие in Russian, and we turn to other languages. So anyway, you can see that this scientific model also became a logo, and only the green, the human development, which leads us out of this vicious circle. As the original motto of this lecture was "Be gentle as a dove and smart as a snake." This is human development, but how can you be so smart? So now I try to define it, and then I will finish for today. According to current economic teaching habits, normally if you study at least 1 or 2 semesters in economics, and you must, even if you become a teacher or a lawyer or or especially engineers or agriculture experts. And of course, we economists learn it for 10 semesters at least in BSc and MSc. And normally everybody says that there's macroeconomics and microeconomics. Macro being aggregated indexes, so we look at the whole national economy like GDP, unemployment, budgetary deficit, inflation, and so on. And we work on the whole national economy, or at least we think. For example, inflation is a typical index of macroeconomics. But we have microeconomics, so as private so-called economic players, we are so-called individual market actors like consumers, businesses, state, or employees. And we also are ruled with basic economic laws and private interest. What is missing? The missing piece is, I think, which we must introduce as a third or maybe as a major building block of this system, is what we call global economics, or I sometimes abbreviate it Globeconomics. I published this, I think, back in 2020 maybe, or 21. Globeconomics comes from the Greek words global and economics, and it's a branch of economics that studies the ecological limits of the total world economy and concentrates on balanced development of national economics to avoid extreme inequality, decreasing marginal happiness of income increase. For example, you can find this in my paper Women and Mockery, but basically it's about something else. It's about TV series, how they inhibit, how they work against our sustainability thinking, like proposing overconsumption or not believing in our authorities and the decision makers. So this is another story, but the definition is given there. I wrote a book back in 2016. In my dreams, it's only the first volume of a trilogy of 3 other volumes. The second volume is something like 80% ready. And in that I try to, in the first volume, which is called The Economy Machine, I try to collect all economic traditions that can give a basis to this new paradigm. And on the left hand, scientific theories, I found many good alternative economic schools, like the center-periphery theory, which was worked out in Latin America in the 1950s, or development economics. I'm very happy because or very proud because I have a long list of economics from Aristotle to Esther Duflo. Esther Duflo was the last with his husband Banerjee, Professor Banerjee, to end this long table, which I call the table of economism. And they are positive heroes because they are working on poor economics. And 2 years later, they got the Nobel Prize for economics. So I'm very happy that I finished this first volume with them. Then we have environmental economics, which has longer traditions with David Pearce, my professor Sándor Kerekes, or Günther Pauli. We have a deeper movement called ecological economics. The major representatives are Nicolae Georgescu-Roegen, who is from Romania originally, but of course he moved to America, or Robert Costanza from the younger generation, or Herman Daly, who has alas passed away 2 years ago. And we have sustainability science, which I use very often. Basically, you can think of the ecological footprint, which was developed by a relatively young and wonderful scientist and activist, Matthijs Wackernagel, who sort of personal friend. I'm very proud of this theory, and not only the theory, the calculations, but the advocacy work that he's doing with the Global Footprint Network. And what is new in this book, that I try to combine this sort of laic or scientific schools with religious teachings. And I found that although these 5 religions, 5 major religions, Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, Christianity, and the Hebrew religion are very versatile. For example, one believes in one God. We Christians believe in the Holy Trinity, which is one God and three. Then the Hindu have thousands of gods, and the Buddhist have basically no God. Buddha himself is not a God, but a so-called enlightened person. But if we go to the moral teaching, then all these religions come very close. For example, self-moderation, giving little meat, giving donation to the poor, and so on. So they come very strong, very close. And economic teaching, with this basically a subdivision of moral teaching, they are almost the same. So the good news is that all these different science theories and religions and the economic teaching of the religions can be a common denominator. So there is a common ground for all people who are real Muslims, who really believe in human development and who are really care of the Earth's future. There is a common denominator, and we can teach this in economic schools. I think this is a wonderful finding. If we step a bit, then from the old schools or the current schools, then we will see that our goal is the bottom line, okay? Not the bottom line in that understanding that it's profit, profit, and profit, but sustainable and human development. So the last line of this table. The bad economics is wasting and useless. Unhuman economics can be saving but useless. And it could be that we have good goals but bad limits, then it's good and unsustainable. So we can see that the only way forward is sustainable and humane economics. But what are the limits and what are the growth? I go very quickly, but first I must define humane economics, or the two blocks that could be added to current economics, which is bionomics and economic theology, and they can add up, so we have a sort of re-engineered modern smart economics with the old machines and giving this two extra engines or whatever to the turbines, maybe we can say. One is bionomics. Bionomics is about limits. It's a new kind of economic theory which is based on thorough study of the laws of life with the primary objective of serving life, especially human communities. So this takes into consideration other species but still keeps the central role of people. But this is not about goals, so ideology can play little part here. This is about natural science. Okay, and we must be able to observe natural systems. For example, that my body is not growing to the sky, not even human body, but even we have a saying that even the trees don't grow up to the sky. We have some small trees like bonsai, and we have quite huge trees like the red pine. I think that's the oldest and biggest tree in the world. I had the opportunity as a student. I spent some time in the US, so I could visit the oldest red pine forest, or one of the oldest, near the Golden Bridge at the coast of San Francisco, and I was quite amazed. And I must say that this is a special area because red pines normally cannot grow so big. I have one in my garden, and it's only, I think, 10 meters high, and it will never grow to 120 meters because the climate is not good. In California, the climate is okay, but still they stop growing, they don't get bigger. And most of the trees only grow to a certain size. and they grow less and less. This is actually true for human bodies as well. When we are a baby, we grow very quickly, and at the age of 14, 18, 21, we stop growing quantitatively. If we grow more, then it will be bad because we are more fat and fat. We stop, we cannot grow our hands or our feet or our heightness anymore. But it doesn't mean that this is the end of our life. So we have, in a good case, still 50, 60, 80 years life when we don't develop quantitatively, but qualitatively. So we want to be better, don't want to be bigger. This is something that companies must learn and national economies must learn. Back to trees. Trees grow quickly and then less and less quickly. They also have a maximum size. And what is more visible than by humans, they bring fruits. I mean, at least fruit trees. And they don't bring fruits all the time, they bring only seasonally. So I think the seasonality and different life phases are something we can learn from bionomy. This is not only a vague idea. I have a PhD student who looked at the behavior of animals, and so we are trying to work out the theory more precisely. The other thing, which is about goals and not about limits, is economic theology. Economic theology is an economic philosophy from the school of moral economics. Moral economics as described in this book, the Gazdasággép, the economic machine, which considers material goods as a means to advance towards God, to human improvement, which embraces the economic teaching of world religions, alternative schools of economics, and sustainable development science. So although theology is something like a study of God, you don't have to be a believer. It's good if you are a believer, because then I don't have to explain you why we have higher goals than the salary at the end of the month. But you don't have to be a religious person if you believe in good and you are working something good. So economic theology is a very, how to say, liberal expression in terms of that. It's not orthodox. I drew another picture. Current economics is like a circle, which is an empty circle, because it's very important. This blue thing gives our material basis. Without food or without drink or without basic mobility, we cannot live at all. Some people use very little, some more, or huge amounts, but basically we all need this living basis. So this is what utilitarian economics or traditional economics, mainstream economics defines. And what we need more is the learning the laws, the one planet limit. This is bionomy. And we also need to see the religion, the goals, okay? So, and again, religion is not only a written religion, but something where the religions sort of meet. And this is what we call economic theology. So if we add up these two turbos or two extra blocks to current economics, then you see that we will have no real problem. It will be not perfect, so I kept a little hole in the middle, but it will be much better at this age of development. By the time it fades out, we will have other smart people who will help us to navigate further. I wrote this down in my book Gazdasággép, the economy machine, and we have a sort of movement from material to machine. We all know that material, like something is better than nothing. I mean, if you have the empty universe, and we have the stones there, the asteroids, that somehow it's more. And then we have the machine, when the stones and the metals are working together and they become a locomotive. But we all know that life is something more. A plant is somehow more than a locomotive because it's living. We cannot explain that. And somehow we think that animals they have the more awareness. and most of us think that men are somehow more sophisticated than animal, and most of us believe that a good community is somehow more than only its members, and these are something we can hardly explain. And some of us believe in angel and God. Utilitarian economics can leave us to the image of machine, when everything is planned and practiced and we can forecast and so on. Bionomy can leave us to the animal level, and economic theology can lead us to the community level. I must say that I'm not creating a religion, and I don't think that God and the angels could play any role in this new theory. But to have a good community is having somehow of a characteristic of a good angel. And if you kill each other, that has something very concrete characteristic of how we imagine devil. And whether it's an image or you really believe in that, that's not important and discourse. And altogether, these three adds up to what we call humane economics. This has a very little common feature with religion, but little has, as I told you, on the economic teachings of religious schools, and it's described in hundreds of pages in this book, The Economy Machine. But let's go further. If mainstream economics, mathematically, we take out the phenomena of extreme economism and the externalities, so basically bad effects on future generations and any outsiders, and we add up these two modules of bionomics and economic theology, then we have what we call humane economics. With the old traditions of moral economics, which became utilitarian mainstream with Adam Smith, we must turn back to moral economics, but in a redefined way. We should not go back to the farm system and should not climb back the tree, so we could use AI and modern technology, but we must slow down a bit with technological and material development and concentrate on sharing the goods. We have enough goods, but we have no system to share. And if we have people who are not recipients, then we will have people who are upset and who will be immigrants and who will be terrorists and so on. So at the end of the day, this is not altruism from people who have, but this is a good investment for the future, not a short-term investment, but a middle-term investment. Okay, I spoke a lot about these three limits. We also drew here a graphic. First is the ecological footprint, the other is the extreme inequality, and the third is happiness. If we could stay within this one, within these three limits, then most of our problems could be solved in some decades. This is our most popular, so to say, scientific article, because what I tell now is partly science, but it's popular science. If you want to publish a real paper, you cannot publish these thoughts. It's a system problem, I think, but you must come up with numbers. So we came up with numbers, and we tried to calculate what was the ecological footprint of this of our mankind back in the old days. So basically, if you know this, any of these graphs, Mattis Wackernagel published, I think he wrote his PhD on that with his professor William Rees, I think, Canadian professor. I don't know him in person. But basically, they published data a bit backwards. So they calculate all the calculations of the ecological footprint, global or local, from 1961. So basically, 65 years we have real data, more and more sophisticated data. But 65 years are a very short time in the history of mankind. So I was very much interested in, with my colleague Cecilia Szigeti, how was this for 12 millennia, so since 10,000 years before Christ. But of course, 10,000 years before Christ, we had no statistical office, No one could tell what was the Earth's GDP. The nation state didn't exist. Most of the people didn't exist. The population was very low. But there is a school what we call historical statistics, especially by Professor Magnus Madison and his followers. So we have estimations for population. We have estimations for what else? Population. I wrote this article 10 years ago, so I'm trying to forget about our basic data. Population, yes, for us, GDP is really important. But who can say what was the GDP in Jericho in the Middle East 5,000 before Christ? There are some people who could estimate. We basically relied on the estimation of John Maynard Keynes, who said, and we can agree with them, that for most of the time the per capita GDP was something like $500–600 maximum, and it was relatively flat, and it started to grow very quickly only in the after the Industrial Revolution, and it still rises, the per capita and especially the total GDP. So population, we had estimates for GDP, and we had the biocapacity. So we tried to make the correlation between GDP and ecological footprint on this 56 years, or that time it was a bit less, but something like 50 years trend. And with this correlation, we sort of backcasted, and we could draw a trend of the ecological footprint for 10,000 years. Now this graph is a bit hard to understand. You must understand that on both of our axes we have so-called log scale. Log scale means that 1 to 10 going, so the origo is in the right, left, I don't know whether you see it in the mirror, but basically here is the origo where we have the 1 and 1. And this is 1 decade, this is 1 century, and this is 1 millennia, and the whole thing is 1,000 years. So basically it's distorted so that we can see more precise data which are closer to us more precisely. And also on the vertical scale, this is a log scale. What is interesting here? The green graph is what we call world total GDP, of course in current values. We have some historical dollars for that. And the blue thing is world total population. What we see is the other, normally on graphs, is the red and the lilac graphs. We see that about when I was born in 1970, that will be the typical age, is then we used more Earth than is available. So the Earth gives a certain bio capacity. So basically all the green things, and from food, from fish to trees and barley and everything. So what the Earth gives in a single year. Until 1970 we did not overuse it. From 1970 we are overusing it. So currently we are using something like 80% more than the Earth gives. So basically we almost live 2 Earths. How can it be? We basically use the treasure of the past generations, for example fossil fuels, that they did not give us. I must say that ecological footprint cannot calculate the fossil fuel renewal, because it's so long that in 1 year basically 0 fossil fuel is generated. But for million years it was generated, and now we can reuse it. We can use it. This is also true for fossil water, for example, under the Arabic desert, which is a very bad thing, that water accumulated there for tens of thousands of years, and then we use it for irrigation and for some decades, and then game over. So since 1970, we overuse this biocapacity. As I told, first of all, we use the old treasures, the old deposits. Second, we take credit from future generations. Okay, so with that, we drastically limit their consumption possibilities. But this is another lecture as well. I have a long lecture on the ecological footprint. So you see this crossing, the red and the lilac, around 1970. But what is important to look at the green and the blue thing. So population and money, so more GDP and more people went hand in hand until 120 years ago, according to this. Then there was a crossing. So it means that now the main drive of unsustainability and growth is not human population again, but GDP growth. So when we found this out, because this was not we were calculating this for 1 year, and it took another year to publish it because no one believed that we could basically find the first natural limit to GDP. And one of the reviewers wrote that he studied in school that GDP has no limit. We thought that's what is a novelty in the article. In the end, it was published in Ecological Indicators, which is a quite good journal for us. Anyway, to the statement, we found that we have stepped from the phase of overpopulation to overconsumption. So if you want to name one enemy, then it's not the multiplying billions in Africa, or in Black Africa, in the Sahara, but it's the overconsumption of people who can afford that, especially the extremely rich. And again, I stop here because I don't want to show up as an egalitarian, but anyway, this is something we must work in. Should it be a system of state capitalism or communism, what we have in China, or should it be America? Capitalism or socialism, it must be tamed anyway, otherwise it will kill the future. Okay, so that's the first limit, to stay within one Earth's boundaries, ecological limits. By the way, for 1 year we had seen a good improvement in the year of COVID. So in 2020 we saw a 1 year drop in the ecological footprint, but the long trend is growing. And after 1 year, alas, we lost this this sort of present effect. COVID was a very bad thing, but it had some good consequences among the many bad as well. One was development of remote technologies, so like this online meetings and so on. But more importantly, we showed that even staying at home and consuming less, we can live a proper life. And if we could go out of our houses and to the parks and take a train, that would give enough happiness without flying so much, for example. I just heard today in the news that last year they sold 5 billion air tickets, which means that not almost, but 60% of all humans on Earth flew once. I think I personally flew once, so although I could afford to fly much more, time-wise I cannot afford. But some people are commuting by plane. And I must say that 80% of the world humanity, or 70%, have no money to sit on an airplane at all. So basically we should make this more equal as well. In this case, I think we should have higher airfares, but this is not something what is my statement. The second limit is inequality. We calculated with one of my PhD students who wrote her thesis on inequalities, regional inequalities in the European Union. And it's very interesting that in Europe, for example, which is a relatively economically equal place, if we compare Europe to Africa or if we compare Asia in itself, but still we have big differences. We in Hungary, for example, are on what we call the outer periphery, when the per capita GDP is something like 14,000 euro in purchase parity units. The inner periphery, which is the brown thing, is 25,000. The dynamic border is 40,000. The central core, which we call the blue banana, so it's basically inner London is Brussels, Hamburg, Luxembourg. So even this yellow big cities are outside. Like Vienna is not in the blue banana region. I mean, from a physical point of view, but from a GDP volume point of view, it is. But what was funny and interesting, that we had a supercell, that's inner London West. So there the GDP per capita is 15,000 euro. 150,000 euro. So basically almost 3 times higher than the other parts of London. Are these people have much better jobs? Probably it's because of the stock exchange. But anyway, the stock exchanges and the speculative market is working as this super holes in the system. And this is something that we must slow down. Otherwise, as a hurricane, it will be really detrimental for all of us. You can read this. I think we published this in English. And the third limit is happiness. So the first was ecological limit. The second is the fair ratio, or the fair limit of inequality. Most people say that it's 1 to 10th, maybe 1 to 100, but definitely not 1 to billion. And also the question is of what, because it's not easy. Is it the least paid worker in the big company and the CEO, or would it be an average person in Algeria and in France? Or so how would you calculate? What would you compare? We basically have a table of what to compare, but it needs much more research to find out the real finding. My course is basically to start this research and learn the theories and the principles, and I don't think that I can alone or with my colleagues can give real recipes that this is how gentle development or the economics of humane development looks like. I can only sow some seeds, which I hope others will water, and it will grow up when the current tree dries out, and we will have a better and healthier tree with better taste fruits. So the third thing is happiness, and this is a relatively old publication, because it's an old theory. In economics, it's called the Easterlin paradox. Easterlin paradox was developed by Richard Easterlin, who found in the US that GDP is constantly increasing, but the happiness of people is constant. So all this more richness doesn't make any sense if it doesn't make you happier. So that's a limit. You should collect money till that time it makes you happier. And I must say that this is not only individual money. Let's stay with the US and let's look at Sweden, for example. The Scandinavian states are always very good in happiness. Denmark, for example, normally comes out of first, which we understand because it's a nice thing to live in Denmark from well-being point of view and from welfare point of view. These are what we call the welfare states, or the eco-social market societies. Okay, so the Scandinavians are relatively good. But there are some strange things. For example, Cuba comes sometimes out as a very happy and very modest place. It's something science must explain. Anyway, The Eastern paradoxon was re-researched and revisited again and again, and we always find the same. Money makes us happier to a certain limit, and after a certain limit doesn't make us happier. What is the limit? That's hard to find. On this picture, this is something like $10,000 per year GDP back in 2000. But I already read an article from Nobel Prize winning economist, I think it was Kahneman, who argued something like 75,000 GDP. And I have some very solid Hungarian research, not from me, but from colleagues, who say that it's about, I must calculate, sorry. So it's about 200-300 euros net income per capita per month, which is an extremely low income in Hungary, but on a sample of over 1,000 people, we could show that after this very little money, the more money you have doesn't increase your happiness. It's other factors, your family relationships, whether you are okay with your husband, wife, fiancé or girlfriend, whether you are happy with your dog or in your religious community or in your sport club, if you have someone to see you when you have cold, to cook you tea. So there are other things which are very hard to buy from the market. Okay, so if you don't have at home any children, then who will come there to give you a tea when you are unable to go to the kitchen? It's very hard to employ a nurse that time, only for a week. Anyway, sorry. So that was the third limit. Now we are ready to make the model of economics. And to develop the mathematical model, I must say this is a theoretical mathematical model. It doesn't mean that I can quantify them, but at least we have the limits, and at least we have the target function. Actually, that we have to develop such a model I got from Tomáš Sedlacek, very famous young Czech, now not so young Czech economist, younger than me, who wrote a very good book. I can really recommend the Economics of Good and Evil. And when I was talking to him in Prague about this, he told that we need to develop a mathematical model. So I tried to develop a mathematical model, but then I realized that although I have studied economics for many years and I made my PhD and habilitated and became a professor, so I'm teaching it for 20 years, but still I don't know what is the model, the basic mathematical model of economics, traditional economics. So I basically wrote down what everybody knows, but maybe it's not in this table form. You must know that in a mathematical function you can have many boundary conditions, as many as you want, but minimum anyway. So basically many. If you have too many, then of course you don't have a solution. But the target function, what you maximize, can be only one. And the target function of current economics is money. That is in line 4, 5 and 6. If it's one target function, why is it in 3 lines? Because it can be a target function at the level of my personal level, individual income, consumption, profit, euros, dollars, yuans. It can be at the national level, GDP, or only welfare, not well-being. So it can be rubles or euros or kwanzas or whatever. And there is no global target function because we don't have global economics. And what are the target conditions? The boundary boundary conditions. So the playing field, solid laws, free competition, and Homo economicus, this model of people that economists are said to have created. I must say that I looked after very thoroughly, among economists, Adam Smith, John Stuart Mill, and no economic stated ever that man is a Homo economicus. Actually, after 2 years of study, I could not find out who said it first. Probably first the critics of John Maynard Keynes. There were some philosophers back in the ancient times among the Greek and some in the Reform, in the modern age, who said that it's good to maximize personal interests. So you are a Homo economicus, you are a hedonist, but very few philosophers said, and that we teach this in basic schools, that a smart man proved that man is Homo economicus and we must build the whole word system on that, is somewhat we would build the Burj Khalifa on a 20-centimeter ice on the Lake Balaton here. So it's but somehow Burj Khalifa is standing, not only the real one, but this whole Tower of Babel of economics. So how could we change this? In humane economics, we have 3 boundary conditions. First, ecological limits. I showed you ecological footprint. Second, inequality that do not increase over what is accepted as just between countries, regions, companies, and so on. And what would be the target function? I'm not sure, and this might be a bit speculative or funny, but I think we have to work something like with love points or something like that at the individual level. At the macroeconomic level, we could renew habitats. For example, Dubai should concentrate its resources to make the desert living again, and I told you about the green wall projects, brownfields in developed countries, and socially maybe to stop no-go zones, both as countries and in cities. And what would be the target function of globe economics? It should be sustainable and humane development. And this is something that the UN SDGs are try to win. What would be the variable? Money. Okay, so dollars are very important, but they are not the target, but they are the condition. Okay, so instead of working for more dollars and sacrificing the good things, we should target at the good things and we should keep the dollars. Okay, so this is very important to differentiate between a target, a goal, and a condition. And this is something that basic mathematics can teach you, but I think you understand that in the philosophical terms as well. Again, a graphic from economists. We must look not our bank account, but our smart things. Actually, we are moving toward that. So my watch tells me not only my blood pressure, but when I'm stressed and how I sleep. And I'm sort of looking at it every day. And I'm more cared. Of course, I like that there is money coming at the end of the month, on the bank account, but I don't look at that every day, whether I still have it or how much I spent yesterday. But I look every day on my watch, telling bit basic things about my well-being. Of course, my happiness cannot be measured by my watch, but some things can. So I think it's a way forward. New target function. We must give a new target function, and then we will have new economics. We have published a lot of articles. We had a magazine for 30 years on that. We published a table of post-growth economists to think in the same way as me, and so on and so on. But my basic vision is to write the 6th Bible of economics. According to Tomáš Sedlacek, whom I mentioned, there were 5 Bibles of economics so far. Adam Smith's Wealth of the Nations. Then 80 years later, John Stuart Mill's basic work. Then Alfred Marshall's Economics. Then John Maynard Keynes' General Theory. And the current Bible, which was written by Erzsébet Samuelson and then by Nordhaus, both won Nobel Prize for Economics, is the Big Book of Economics. So these are 5 Bibles. In my book, The Economy Machine, I use 2 colors. Blue is utilitarian, so you can see that 4 of the 5 Bibles are utilitarian, and 1 is orange. It's the Marshall. So, I think that we must write a new sort of Bible, so a basic handbook or whatever we call, which is again moral. So I think that I'm trying to move to this direction, and probably I will never be able to finish this book, as in politics you forget about writing and research and so on. But the reason I'm making this course, because I want this to spread even without or with the book. But if I have the energy, then I will translate and publish the first volume to English, and other languages can be published from that. And if God gives me enough life and power, then I will stop this political career maximum 8 years, and I will write the 2nd and the 3rd volumes. Anyway, what I told you today is partly from the 2nd volume as well. The 3rd is a bit blurry, but it will be how basically the art of life in this new way. So the first was a bit philosophical and long term. The 2nd will be very scientific with current calculations and so on. For example, this ecological footprint stuff. And the 3rd will be again sort of personal thing, how to manage your company and how to manage your life and to want to live in the spirit. So if you want to help me, please help taming the profit via adopting these ideas. And with this, I would like to thank you for your attention with one of my famous figures, the Small Prince. Thank you very much. I will come back soon with more classes. Thank you.